I want to thank the media for being here today and what y'all do for high school athletics in our community. This is a really, really great community for high school athletics, football specifically, and we just really appreciate all you do to highlight our guys. I know these guys really, really appreciate it because y'all work tirelessly to make sure that we have great coverage in this area, and it's second to none. With that being said, I do want to wish good luck to the other teams that were here today, Callaway and LaGrange. You know, we were just talking the other day, we were at a paddock camp in Thomasville, and amongst the who's who of high school coaches down there in South Georgia, and we were talking about there's probably not another school district in the state of Georgia that has 3 high schools in that same district that are year in and year out as good as these 3 programs that we have here. So we're really, really blessed no matter who you pull for, but we're blessed to be a part of that. Just to recap, you know, what Kevin said, going into the 10th year here, who would have thought that? You know, I wasn't the first choice to be the head coach 10 years ago. I wasn't the second choice. I think I was the 3rd choice. And but God has a plan, has a reason for everything, and you know, so far so good. Everything's worked out great in our favor, and Whitney and I and the kids are just blessed to be here in this community and to serve, and blessed to be able to coach people like Chase Hilton and Asher Harrelson. So fast forward to this football season, everybody knows that we lost a lot of talent. Not only did we lose a lot of talent, we lost a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps. We lost 17. In some games, you know, we had a couple guys that spot played up to 18 starters on last year's team. You know, last year was supposed to be the year. You know, we had played those guys since they were freshmen and sophomores with the Quay Birdsongs, the Tyler Leslies, the Teo Taz, the Javari Fannins. That was just a great group of guys, great talent, but they had played a lot. You know, and so coming into this year, I don't want to use the word necessarily young because we have 16, 15, 16 seniors, but inexperienced seniors. Asher Harrelson will be taking the podium in just a few minutes. Asher will probably be a starter for us this year, and guess what? He started playing football for the first time last October. I'm not talking about he played a game. I'm talking about he put on a helmet for the first time. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Chase Hilton also played a lot last year. Bubba was behind people like Charles Davis, you know, and played, but wasn't a full-fledged starter. You know, so that's kind of what we're dealing with. You know, I'll answer some questions here in a few minutes about some of the key roles like quarterback and those areas. Going into this year, projection-wise, we may only start 1 or 2 seniors on offense. We do know that Jatorian Blackman has probably solidified himself as a starter at left tackle. He's committed to Troy State, a really good player. We have a history of Blackmans in this community, starting way back when I was an assistant coach under Charles Flowers at Shaw, playing against Trey Blackman, you know, but we've had all the Blackman brothers and sisters and cousins at Troup, you know, with Lil Trey Jr. This year on the team we have Jatorian Blackman, and we have Anthony Blackman, who also is going to play a big role for us this year. Also, more than likely, Jace Haywood will probably take over the tight end, the fullback role for us, who will also be a senior. But it kind of stops right there as far as seniors on offense. So that's a big deal for us to try to get some continuity. I want to talk a little bit about our offensive staff on that side of the ball. We're changing offensive coordinators. We're welcoming home Connor McNamee as our offensive coordinator. Connor McNamee had a stint here with us earlier in his career. Most recently, he was coaching offense at Westlake for Rico Zachary, who they do a really, really good job up in that area. And Rico just rant and raved about Connor and the job he did for him. So that was an easy decision for me to bring him back home as our offensive coordinator. Have a couple of changes kind of, you know, up front. Connor's actually going to coach the offensive line. That's what he did here when he was with us in his first stint. Stan Brumbelow would take over the responsibilities at the quarterback position. Brandon Todd will be coaching the running backs. We're bringing home Jake Fertigue, who's a graduate of Troup High School. He spent the last 3 years as the wide receiver coach at Manchester. They had a really good year last year, made a run and played for the state championship. Cleve Hancock is going to be coaching the tight ends at F's, and he's also played for us at Troup High School. So we're excited about what we got offensively with those coaches. Also, Eddie Lawson, who's now going into his 9th year, will assist with the offensive line. If you flip over to the defensive side of the ball, we're a little bit more veteran. We got some guys on the back end with Jeremiah Horde, with Jalen Reed, with Tyrion Smith. Those guys will be anchoring the secondary. We did lose for the season Greg Houston, who was a starter for us last year. He was a rising junior, but he's out with a shoulder surgery. So he'll be back his senior year, but he will have to sit this year as he recovers from that. We lost all 3 linebackers, starting linebackers, with Quay Birdsong, Javari Fannin, TJ Mitchell. We lost those guys. So as of right now, we're looking to see who's going to kind of shake that up. KJ McQueen's one guy, Skylar Strowan's another guy, sophomore. Jeremiah Culpepper is one that we're looking at, along with people like Braden Patrick. Those guys, there's not a senior in that group, so it's an inexperienced group. They have played special teams. They have played a lot on JV, but they'll be stepping into those starting roles for the first time. Where the strength probably lies with us as a football team is probably on the defensive line. These 2 guys sitting up here, Asher and Chase, who I've talked about already, but also Amarius Purdue is really going to play big for us on that defensive line. And then at the other end, we're probably going to look at people like Joshua Bradfield, who are stepping into that role today. Joshua Bradfield was going to be with us, was going to join us here today. He's looking to go into the ministry when he graduates high school, so he's taking a couple of tours today on some college campuses to try to get himself ready to take that next step. So we're excited for him and what he's going to do in that. So from a special teams department, we are bringing back our kicker, our long snappers, our holders, but they're all still kind of, I don't want to use that word young, but McCarty Harrelson is going to handle all of our kicking duties, and he's just going to be a sophomore. And I really believe, before all said and done, that he's going to be a Division I type talent when it comes to kicking. Jace Haywood, Zane Talaferro, those guys will handle the snapping duties. Holding on extra points will be people like Parker Townsend and Davis Munkus. We're really, really excited. These guys are excited. We just got back from OTAs from Thomas County. Down there in Thomas County, it was us, Tiff County, and Creekside. So we had a lot of good ball. It was hot. It was fast. It was tough. Justin Rogers and those guys are coming off a state championship down at Thomas County, so that was fun to go down there and compete. We've had a pretty busy summer. We went up to Central Carrollton and participated in OTAs up there, which was fun also. We went to 3 different 707s. We went to Georgia Tech, we went to Troy State, we went to UAB. And that was a lot for us this summer, but we're trying to expedite that learning process and the experience process with these guys, so we thought it was necessary. Now we'll go into the first official practice on Monday. We'll transfer from being morning practices to going into the afternoons. And so we'll hit the 5-day acclimation period, put the pads on the following week. And the first day of school, we'll scrimmage Cedartown, up in Cedartown. We strategically did that because of having Whitewater in our region. That's a wing T team. And in our opinion, nobody, all due respect to the Whitewaters of the world, but Cedartown runs the wing T is about as good as anybody. So we wanted to go up there and scrimmage those guys. We do have a very challenging 10-game schedule. Most notable, 8 games in our region. We do have 2 non-region games. We're going to play at Villa Rica, and we're going to play at Harris County. Villa Rica will be new to our schedule. Absent from our schedule this year is Callaway. We tried to make that work, but with only 2 dates on our schedule for 2 teams, non-region, we wanted to make sure we played Harris County. Most people don't know this, but that's the longest standing rivalry in Troup history. We played Harris County more than we played any other team. And geographically, that's just a natural rival right there. So we want to keep them on the schedule, and they're going to have a really, really good team. We beat them in game 1, and I think they reeled off maybe 8, 9 in a row, went to the 2nd and 3rd round in the playoffs. And Coach Tommy Watson's doing a tremendous job down there with that program. So with us not being able to get Callaway and a little deal with that, Coach Wiggins wanted to play in the Corky Kale. So that's kind of where that kind of kind of wouldn't flow right for us to play each other. So we really tried to work that out. So to replace them, we went with Villa Rica, who is also up in classification for us. Coach Tim Barron's son's up there. Y'all remember Coach Tim Barron from Heard County? His son's now up there at Villa Rica and doing an amazing job there. So that'll be a big challenge for us on the road. A lot of people will note that we only have 4 home games this year instead of 5, and I want you to kind of know how we got to that point. There again, we have 4 instead of 5, and what happened was we were scheduled to play Whitewater at home, and so that was giving us that 5th game for that region schedule. However, us, LaGrange, and Callaway were all 3 going to be in town that week, so we had to draw straws. We drew the low straw, which was going to give us a Saturday game. And it's kind of against my religion to play on Saturday in the fall unless we have to. Just we looked at it. Georgia was having a home game. Alabama had a home game. Auburn had a home game. And so typically your gates are not going to be that good on a Saturday evening. That's not a playoff game, right? So what we did was we worked it out with Whitewater. We will go to Whitewater this year, and they will come to us the following year. So when that schedule flips, we will have 6 home games in 2025. As opposed to the normal 5x5. And then when we reclassify in 2 years, start looking at that, we'll try to make sure we're more balanced year to year. So with that being said, I'll open it up to questions. And like I said, glad to be here and glad that you guys and ladies are covering high school athletics to this extent in Troup County.
Coach, I just wanted to ask you, I know you look at this team, it's going to be quite a few guys that are kind of newer to varsity football, new to starting roles. As a coach, how about you looking forward to really watching these players develop? And I'm sure you're hoping obviously they'll be a lot better in week 10 than they are week 1.
No, I think you make good points. Reverting back to last year for just a second, when you had those guys who had played so much football, like the Teo Taz, Tyler Leslie's, Quade Birdsongs, there gets to a point where that ceiling, you've almost maxed that ceiling out, right? And you're hoping to kind of ride that wave to a semifinal like we did the year before or state championship. But with this group, the ceiling is much, much higher just because I mentioned people like Asher Harrelson doesn't have a lot of experience under their belt. So, you're hoping to trend upward, and keep getting better each and every week. Now, there's a lot of factors to go into that. You got to be healthy. You got to practice really well. You got to be schematically sound. But I do think that this group has a very, very high ceiling, and I do think that excites me and excites our other coaches and excites the players because they want to see the progress. And we always talk, you don't want to work and not get paid, right? So hopefully they'll get paid, and we'll see how it trends. With us having the power rankings this year, that's going to be kind of unique because you don't have to necessarily finish first, second, third, fourth in the region to get in the playoffs. And the goal of this team is just to get in, and then we'll figure out kind of how we are, at that point in our season.
Yeah, my wife's an accountant. I might need to get her to kind of explain the power ranking.
Yeah. So that was a big deal. We talked about that as well, and we've talked to some people who have been involved in those power rankings, whether they were in Class A or a different state. And they said, look, just schedule the best you can, play the best competition you can, and just let the chips fall where they do. One bonus to us having 6 away games, though, is you get a little more credit for road wins than you do for home wins. So that could work in our favor possibly as the season goes on.
I don't miss those power rankings. But, Coach, for those who may not know the guys that you're going to be rolling out onto the field this year, just describe the team that's going to be wearing the blue and gold for you this year.
Yeah, so, Jack, one thing I want to make sure that we make very, very clear is because a lot of people are making contrast and comparing what we did in baseball to what possibly could happen in football, right? So, we started off in the baseball season and we started 4 freshmen and we ended up going to the Elite 8 and finishing tied for second in our region, which was a very, very difficult region, maybe the best region in the state of Georgia in Quad A in baseball. There's no comparison to the baseball part of it and what we're doing in football. Nobody's getting really literally punched in the mouth when you're a 15-year-old on the baseball field. And so there's a big difference to that. And so, to answer that question, we're trying to do everything in our power to expedite the learning process, right? Whether it be trying to hit on all learning styles, walk through film work. We sent some of our guys to leadership camp this summer. That's kind of unique for us. Not a football camp, but to go get some training in leadership. I think that's going to be very big for us, and that's something that we're doing a little bit different. The OTAs that I mentioned, the 7-on-7s, but also how we're structuring practice. Each day that we start practice, we're going through our pregame routine. There's certain things that we're working on the front end of practice, and then we're taking a halftime. So we're having a 20-minute break in the middle of practice where we come in, we rehydrate, we eat, we do some chalk talk, we look at some film, and then we start over like we're starting in the third quarter. We go into our normal third quarter routine, our stretching routine, and then we put the ball down, we go kick off, turn, and we play it like it's third and fourth quarter. So we're trying to do everything in our power to try to simulate what these guys have missed over the last year or two to try to get some more experience under the belt to be prepared for this schedule.
And you talked about the schedule you guys are going to have to play. You talked about the new region that you're going to be in. Just tell us about, the reasoning behind this, the way you set up the schedule and that new region that you're going to be playing in.
Yep. So, the region schedule's out of our hands, right? So that's the luck of the draw. You go into that region meeting, you draw numbers, and then the schedule matches up. So, only two things were in our power, or three things. It was the scrimmage game against Cedartown and the two non-region games that I mentioned. So all the other stuff's kind of out of our control, right? I'm kind of a little bit baffled still why Georgia High School decided to put us in a 9-team region, because then, you got some other regions that have 3 or 4 teams in it, and so it's kind of shaking your head on that, kind of trying to figure out what we were thinking, especially trips all the way to people like Mary Persons, but it is what it is, and we're kind of dealt that hand, but it is a very, very difficult region. So I'll try to go through it just real quick, and if I miss somebody, y'all may have to help me, but we open up at Whitewater, and Whitewater does a tremendous job. They were a little bit down last year, but the prior year to that, they were in the playoffs, made a good run. We'll play on the road at Upson Lee, who went, I think, to the second round of the playoffs. We have to go to Mary Persons, who went deep in the playoffs. We'll still play Trinity Christian, who has a great program. I look forward to competing against those guys. We obviously had the rivalry game with LaGrange, who went to the second round last year. Sandy Creek, who's coming back with a lot of talent. Fayette County, we'll play them here. That's a region foe from years past that we'll play here for homecoming. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of others. Y'all may have to help me on that, but it's a very, very Spalding. Spalding, who we played the last, I think maybe in the last 5 years we played them twice in the playoffs. So they are very good. I think they won their region last year. They were region champs. So this is not for the weak of heart.
Coach, I got a quick question. Looking back at the spring game last year, kind of figuring out things. A lot of new guys out there. There's a lot of energy, though, which usually isn't the case in the second half when the young guys got in. And I watched a lot of the older guys really get excited about what those younger guys are doing on the field. Is that kind of the way things are moving this year?
Yeah, well, I think, Jack, to mention, I think that goes back to your culture. That's the kind of culture that we try to create at Troup, is the fact that we pull for each other, and even down to, we have so many student managers, student assistants that film, that fill up water, that keep us hydrated, and it's just one big family, and so we try, and that starts with me as the head coach, trying to value the lowest guy on our totem pole, even as far as coaches go. It might be a guy that's assistant to the assistant, but he's still valuable to what we do. And another thing that we try to do, Jack, is that, under the leadership that I try to provide, is everybody is responsible for certain duties and responsibilities, and those duties and responsibilities are unique to those people. So nobody has the same duty and same responsibility. There's no overlap. So I know who to praise, and I also know who I got to get a kick in the butt from time to time. But that kind of goes back to these guys. Leadership starts with the guy at the top, and it's got to be demonstrated. It's got to be, you got to lead by example. So just this morning, I'm at the Troup and I'm washing clothes and picking up trash. Well, I hope that somebody sees that. And I don't do that for the publicity stunt of it. I do it for these guys to see me getting my hands dirty. So things that we're going to ask those guys to do, we're going to do it as adults. And I think that trickles down. And it's also home. the home life. We're very blessed here. Our parents allow us to coach these guys really, really hard, and there's values and things that are instilled at home with the Hiltons and the Harrelsons of the world that allow us to kind of piggyback off of that, right? So, we say all the time it takes a village. Well, we're part of that village. Good.
Yeah.